The Great Molasses Flood, also known as the Boston Molasses Disaster or the Boston Molassacre, occurred on January 15, 1919 in the North End neighborhood of Boston, Massachusetts. A large storage tank filled with 2.3 million U.S. gallons weighing approximately 13,000 short tons of molasses burst, and the resultant wave of molasses rushed through the streets at an estimated 35 miles per hour, killing 21 and injuring 150. The ex-hardcore gamer here, and no, you're not listening to a history podcast. I'm going to talk to you about Subway Midnight. So if I'm talking about a game on Steam, why was I mentioning about a historical fact about molasses? Easy, it's twofold. One, I'd rather talk about anything other than Subway Midnight. And two, the game moves like molasses. Look, I get it. The internet is full of negativity, and I'm not trying to fuel that and be a part of it. I'm also not trying to be salacious and outrageous to get more clicks and listens, but this truly is one of the worst games that I have ever played. So you're probably asking right about now, so what is Subway Midnight about? And that is a great question. And even though I've played 3 out of the 4 hours that this game takes to complete, I couldn't tell you anything about the story other than, I don't know, maybe you're looking for a missing girl? And then weird things happen? Honestly, that's the best I can come up with. Seriously, this is one of those games that has no opening video and no dialogue to speak of, no pun intended, at all in the game. You're just thrown right in and everything happens around you. No joke, the first 10 minutes of the game, I wish I was joking, the first 10 minutes of the game is just you holding up on the joystick and walking from subway car to subway car. Subway Midnight actually has a bullet point to try to sell the game, saying that there are over 100 subway cars to explore in the game. But right in the beginning, we're talking multiple cars that are just nothing happening. It's just you walking. This is where that molasses comes into play. It is such a slow walking speed. I've never played a game where you moved any slower. I legitimately thought that maybe my controller was broken and I tried a different one. So after trying out with another controller and realizing that that's just how the game is designed, my immediate thought is that with only a 4-hour completion time, this was just a game that was too short and they didn't want people to ask for refunds, so they just made your guy walk slower so it would take longer to complete. So when you're going to spend the majority of the game just wandering from room to room having weird things happen like, hey, I'm walking on the ceiling, or the colors are changing, or this thing jumps out at me, every once in a while they will throw a puzzle at you. These puzzles are super simplistic though. A lot of them are just going to be something as simple as figuring out which switch to flip to open up a door, or maybe just wandering around and finding an item to also open a door. They do try to mix things up a little bit with the puzzles and have a little bit of variety, but a lot of them boil down to just trial and error gameplay, and there's no real logic to figuring them out. You just have to wander in one place and see if it's the right way to go or not. At first, you're just going to wander around until you figure it out, but later on there are going to be some dangers and they can actually kill you, which makes you have to restart that room. Even on my solid state drive, I was looking at multiple seconds of load time, which doesn't sound like much, but it adds up if you're going to be dying a lot. So now you're having to wait for the whole level to reload, which really isn't that big, so I don't get why it takes so long. And then if you make that same mistake again, you're starting all over again, and it takes forever to get back to where you were because of the slow walking. After playing for a couple hours, I was actually starting to think that maybe I was missing something and that this was all just a big joke and that they worked hard to make it as bad as they could to try to torture the player. And again, I'm not saying this to try to sound mean and negative. I truly think that maybe this was a possibility, that they were trying to see what they could put the player through so that if they made it to the end, there would be some grand reward. And unfortunately, I just had to eject. I couldn't do it. And I was too afraid that maybe I was wrong with this theory. They add random jump scares that just don't work. There's tons of bizarre things that happen. There's even a first-person segment where you can't move and turn at the same time. You have to stop whenever you want to do that. It's just like, how would you make this design? And it's all the more confusing because the art in it is actually beautiful. I think the graphics are wonderful in this game. I have to say that whoever were the artists working on this game were definitely very talented, as the character designs were great. I love the animation. The way everything just looked, it was awesome. So it really made me think that I was going to be playing a great game, and There was a huge disconnect and I don't know what was going on. And again, I wish I could be more positive about things, but when it comes to the music, it's almost non-existent. Every once in a while it kicks in and it's kind of repetitive and you just have these weird ambient sounds. There's not really much to talk about, unfortunately. So look, I am all for a game that wants to build up atmosphere and have a slow build and a slow burn, making you explore through different levels and trying to figure out what's going on in this weird, creepy world. But I just don't think that they hit the mark with Subway Midnight. I almost think that maybe this game is going for a younger audience, that I'm just too old where I just don't get it, and that maybe it's made for shorter attention spans, and that they like when random flashing lights happen and strange things are going on, and maybe it reminds them of a creepypasta they read on the internet. But it just wasn't for me. And on the flip side, maybe I'm just a big old dum-dum and I'm just not getting the point that it's got some deeper meaning and it's going right over my head, or maybe I'm missing it because I'm too frustrated with the gameplay. It's almost like watching one of those award-winning foreign films where you just don't understand anything that's going on and you wonder why so many people love it. That's how I felt while I was playing Subway Midnight. So now, before I go and cleanse my gaming palate by playing some Aquaman on Xbox or Superman 64, I'd like to take the time to thank our indie warriors. Mitchell Hall, Bunny Kevelo, Bill T, Christian Cruz, Chris Jackson, Nathan Moore, Peach, Adriana Amato, CJR, PSC, C Coil, Skeptism, Jen Rose, Jesse, CPM, Julian Colbus, JRS the 8th, Ray Lynn, and Marky Mint. Thank you again for everything that you do to support us here at I Dream of Indie. If anybody else would like to join them and be able to become an indie warrior, all the information is in the description below. Thanks again for watching, and until next time, enjoy gaming.